You're listening to Wholesaling Inc., episode number 1405.
My suggestion is to get out your offers and increase that offer across the year, because they're going to get back to you eventually, and being on top of that. So knowing what offers you've made makes your life a lot easier. But I think, moral of the story here, everything sort of summed up here is just get your offers out there and follow up.
This is game-changing information guaranteed to raise your real estate wholesaling business with actionable steps you can take immediately to navigate the ins and outs of wholesaling and start making money today. Join us as we put our guests in the hot seat and dive deep to dissect their strategies for success to enable you to duplicate their results. You're listening to Wholesaling Inc., the only show dedicated to making you a fortune in wholesaling.
All right, so I come to you with this podcast super stoked. I just sold another land deal, getting $20,000 down, and I'm going to get $1,048 a month, interest only for the next 24 months. I bought the land for $55,700. I'm selling it for $109,900. So it's a heck of a win today. So I'll go ahead and ring that victory bell. Guys, my name's Brent Bowers. I'm the Land Man. Welcome to the Wholesaling Podcast. Today, I've got Jessey and Kevin on. And we're going to share with you what I'm doing with my land business, what they're doing with their land businesses. They are both land investors, and they created a program called Pebble to help land investors. Guys, I'll just break right into it. They're giving a 14-day free trial on all the templates I'm personally using in my land business, the follow-up sequences, all the mailing. They give you the direct pricing from the United States Postal Service, and you can get access to that right now by going to thelandsharks.com/CRM. I will not make you wait until the end of the episode, but Jessey and Kevin are phenomenal. When I met Jessey, he's actually still living in Canada, investing in United States land. And Kevin, he was in Korea, and he was buying United States land. So these guys are the perfect example of doing this business virtually. They're not going and stepping foot on this land. And I love one of the gold nuggets they're going to give today about going where there's demand, where land is selling. Don't overcomplicate this. You can do this anywhere. It works with any price range property, anywhere from $285, or I've literally gotten land for free multiple times, but that doesn't happen all the time, all the way up to, several $1 million. So hopefully you enjoy today's episode. It's packed full of action steps, and just the main message here is take action right away. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Jessey, Kevin, welcome to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
We are doing fantastic.
All right, we got one in Milwaukee. Kevin's in Milwaukee. Jessey, you're in Canada. You guys, and I'm in Florida. We're all over the place. So, let's start with you, Jessey. 30 seconds. Tell Rhino Nation a little bit about yourself. I know that's a tall order, really short amount of, I give you a really short amount of time to do that.
Yeah, all good. Yeah, I'm a Canadian here. I started in wholesaling houses and fix and flips, and then moved over to land, working on land, and then eventually started helping land investors get scaled and systemized. And with my co-founder and partner here, Kevin, we started that in 2020 with Pebble. So it's a quick little bit about me.
All right. How about you, Kevin?
Yeah. So I'm Kevin, recent transplant to Milwaukee. I was living in Korea for quite a while, but back here in the States now. I am a software engineer by trade, did that for many, many years, and stumbled into land investing, really dove into that head first, and around 2020 released what is now Pebble. It was a tool that I built for myself that we sort of turned into a company.
I love it. And I love the fact that, because I thought you were still in Korea when we started the call here. So it just proves you could do land. Now, were you buying Korean land, or were you buying American land?
I was doing U.S. land 100% remotely outside of the country. And that was one of the reasons why I chose land, was because it really is a remote-friendly process. There's no reason you have to physically go to the land. You can see all you need to see from satellites, from Street View, from hiring someone on Craigslist to go drive out there and take a photo for you. That's pretty much all you need. Everything else you can get from the county and from the maps and the geo stuff.
So you had a special link to be able to just zoom in from satellite? Like, what did you pay for that software?
Yeah, so I was actually in North Korea and I was working with government and no, it's magic what you can do these days with all the tools available.
I love it. How about you, Jesse? Were you just buying Canadian land?
No, we can't really do this in Canada. I mean, most of the land here is owned by Crown and we don't have access to public data. So, nope, was investing in property, in America, across the border. And I did come into the country a few times to look at, the houses that we were working on, but eventually landed upon land, meeting some people that led me to another group. And then I found this area of land. It was like, holy smokes, you can just do this from anywhere. This is crazy. I still remember the first deal I did. I remember I was sitting on a toilet. I sold my first property on the toilet when it was, that was on Facebook Marketplace. So it was crazy. I thought this couldn't be done. But believe it or not, Kevin and I started Pebble. I mean, we didn't even meet for 2 years in person because it was in the midst of the whole pandemic during that time. And it's incredible what you can do remotely now if you can get communication tools up and the team in place and systems in place. You can run this stuff out of a laptop from anywhere nowadays.
That's so funny you said. Thanks for getting personal with us too and letting us know that you did your first land deal on the toilet.
No secrets here with the
it wasn't a crappy deal, was it?
No, it wasn't. I believe it was a 5-acre something in Oregon, but that was a crappy deal. I get it now.
yeah. Terrible jokes, dad jokes. But so man, I just was thinking about this. I've done over 20 deals with this one realtor. I still have never met him. I don't know what he looks like. I have no idea what he looks like. He's just an incredible land sales specialist out here in Florida that I've used. I just picture like this man that looks like Hulk. That's what I assume he looks like. So I don't ever want to meet him. So I'm not let down when I do meet him. But anyhow, that's amazing how you can do this virtually. And I'm going to ruffle some house buyer feathers right now. Every time I buy a house or a building, I always somehow or another end up having to go there and look at it, no matter where it's at. I don't know why. There's always a challenge or a problem that I've got to solve. And it's like, why couldn't it just be like a land deal that I don't have to look at? But enough about that. Now that I've ruffled the feathers of those guys. But I want to talk a little bit about the amazing Pebble, the program that I use that sends my letters. I can call directly from this service. I can do drip campaigns. I can set it up to where it mails these landowners again, people that call them the don't wanters, the people that want to receive my letter again in 12 weeks at maybe a little higher offer. All these little automations that you put in place to make my life a lot easier. And then I'm leaving out a ton of it. So you guys were investing in land, and I remember, Jesse, you kind of telling me your story, like you had a problem, and most things are created from a problem or to solve a problem. So you guys are floating along doing land deals, and then did Pebble fall in your lap, or you finally got Kevin to build it, or how did that work?
Well, so Kevin was the one who built, the early version of Pebble for himself, and he was solving the problem for himself. Now, one of the things that I fell upon was, I have a background of consulting for landing pages and building out websites. So for me, that was integral because my first 3 deals was because of my websites. And so that's where I solved the problem for myself, because I guess my claim to fame here is I finished my first property within 4 weeks of hearing what the word, land investing. I didn't even know what that was. And I attribute a lot of that to the website. And I was able to communicate a lot about, back then, not everybody had an acquisition website. So I started helping other people in these little mastermind groups that I was a part of just out of my own time. And I learned a lot more from these other investors as well. So I started helping others launch their websites. That's sort of where Pebble stemmed from, which was REI conversion and building out websites for house investors and land investors. And then that's when Kevin and I ran across each other. I'd built an audience, and Kevin had already started working on a solution for him to systemize the mailing, get the property records all centralized in one place. Because I think Kevin realized early on, if I can streamline this, if I can simplify this, it's so much easier to run. And I think I'm speaking for Kevin here. Him being in Korea, probably amplified some of this stuff for him. He knew he had to get things in place, but I'll let Kevin sort of talk a little bit about the early days of Pebble before we launched.
So as I mentioned, I was doing land remotely, started in 2018 thereabouts. And I was doing more and more deals. I was also working a day job and started realizing that I was dropping the ball on things. Just wasn't able to keep track of who I needed to talk to, what things I needed to do. And so I was just dropping the ball on things. And I was like, okay, I gotta get some system here in place. And that started this journey of trying all these things. I started with Pipedrive, tried HubSpot, some of the more land specific things, and nothing really worked for the land business because we have this unique model that we really have like two sides of the business, right? We've got our direct marketing and our acquisition process where we're sending out mailers or doing cold calling or mass texting and trying to get deals in. Then once I acquire those deals, I've got to then market and sell those deals to my final buyer. And that sort of two sides of the house system where like they're really separate but very tightly linked. There's not a lot of CRMs out there that support that model very well. And so after being super frustrated, I was just like, okay, I'm going to try to build something that does this. And initially I had no intention of selling it. It was all just about me building something to help my own business. And one thing led to another, and I just sort of iterated over a couple year period. And by that spring of 2020, I had something that was really running my whole business. And that's when I showed it to Jessey and a few other investors who got really excited about it. Jessey reached out to partner up, and we sort of took it from there.
Yeah, no, I love that. I see the problem, and then, I'm guilty of that myself. Just forgetting to call these sellers back, forgetting the buyer or what was this property. And sometimes like you do enough of these, you forget which property's which. So you kind of, keep that together. I think one of the best things about Pebble that I love the most is I sell a lot of land to the neighbors. And we could just send out those neighbor letters, those high quality looking neighbor letters to the neighbors and sell the land that way. Pull a list, skip trace them, call them, text them, email them, and send them a letter as well. But, what are you seeing that's working really well right now today for your Pebble users as well as your own land businesses? Like, how are people finding the deals? How are they selling the deals? Like, what's working right now with this market? Like, how can we help anybody that's like, listen, I need a deal today. I'd love to quit my job just like Jessey or just like Kevin did. Or maybe I don't want to have to think about Christmas next year. This is so expensive. And if I can make an additional $5,000-$6,000 a month, that would solve that problem for me.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things for people to get over, and I think we're kind of spoiled in the place of land too, is there's not a lot of barrier to entry, but for a lot of people, it is a mindset thing too. But getting your marketing out there, we're working on a book right now, and it's sort of like, how would people get started with land, knowing what they know now? And it always comes down saying, get my marketing out. I should have done it earlier. And it's like, what we're seeing right now is people are getting mailing out there or marketing out there, but we're also seeing people are now following up. So this is now becoming a bigger and bigger thing where you send out a campaign, you may want to follow up with that 3 months later, 4 months later, whatever. We're seeing on an average of people sending, 3-4 times now across a year, sometimes to acquire a piece of property. So I think I've seen that as a recent change where people are actually like mailing more often to the same property to get that deal done.
Yeah. Which I hate following up, but I know that I got to mail them every 12 weeks. Like, how do I follow up? How do I take myself out of that equation? Because, we're entrepreneurs, we're visionaries, we're on to the next thing. And follow up is not what a visionary does.
Good point. Yeah. And this is where like Kevin and I talk heavily about like having processes in place. And this is probably very unsexy stuff to talk about when we're building a business. The thing is within land, we got away for a while with running things like a hobby. And the thing with house people, the advantage they have is they've treated, because it's so competitive, they've actually had to get processes in place. So for those of you guys that are coming and listening from the house area, land is going to be a piece of cake for you guys because you understand how competitive things can get. Whereas land, it's just not like that. So yeah, this is where repeatable processes come in place. And this is something that we talk heavily about. If you're going to do follow-ups, make sure you have a playbook on that. What do follow-ups look like? Do follow-ups look different for certain types of offers, for different types of properties? You'll want to document that. And
what
it's
if
a
I
living
don't have
thing.
that? What if I don't have a process? I mean, can you share with me right now, like something that you're seeing that's just working I want to know for myself, for my own land business, guys, like give me some tips right now that I can implement right now. Because, not everyone has these processes, and it took me years of failure to build my processes, and they're still not perfect.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And a lot of it is trial and error. But some things we're seeing with our users is, they're going in to get a campaign out there, and then they're following up with another campaign, maybe with an increased offer or just a follow-up letter. They're constantly keeping themselves on top of mind. I don't have the hard statistics to say, hey, increase the offer by 5% or whatnot. But, using a platform like Pebble, it's a shameless drop of our product here, but it makes it very easy for you to track that. So my suggestion is to get out your offers and increase that offer across the year, because they're going to get back to you eventually, and being on top of that. So knowing what offers you've made makes your life a lot easier. But I think, moral of the story here, everything sort of summed up here is just get your offers out there and follow up, whether that is an additional offer on top of that or extra amount on top of that, or just to put yourself on the radar, because it all comes down to timing sometimes. It's just luck of the draw. So
funny story. I bought a piece of land in Florida. This is a couple months ago. It's already sold now, but I mailed this guy twice. So it was over a 24 week process. So what is that? 4, 8, 12, 16, 24, 20, 6 months. 6 months, twice in 6 months.
Yeah.
So they called in and they said, hey, I want to make sure this offer is so good. And I'm like, what offer is it? And I started asking questions. Where's the land? Do you have a reference ID number? And finally we figured it out. And I'm like, okay, can you tell me how much I offered on it? Because I saw I mailed 2 of them.
Yeah.
One was like 15,000. One was 12,000. Long story short, they were calling on the $15,000 one. So, and it's just like I was hoping they were calling on the $12,000 one, but it just shows you right there. The first one didn't get called. The second one, they're like, okay, this guy might be serious. Ended up buying it for $14,000. Sold it for $30,000 about a month and a half later. So great deal, wonderful deal. And I didn't even sell it. My realtor did all the work for me. I think we netted about $12,000 on that net. But 2 letters that cost me 82 cents each is because you guys charge exactly what the United States Postal Service charges. So I think they're 82 cents each for first class mail.
Plus for the printing.
Less than that. I'm not sure exactly what the rates are, but USPS is always fluctuating and increasing.
Basically, what I'm trying to say is I spent $1.64 to make $12,000, and I know, I can look at these reports from Pebble. Yeah. I know that I make almost $8.32 for every letter I send. So if I'm going to spend 82 cents to make $8.32, it just makes. I'm not an engineer or a mathematician, but I know that's good math. Yeah, it really is.
Like I said, more and more people are sending more frequently. We're seeing, and that's a great example. When they're getting back to you, and you were hoping it was the 12,000, it would turn out to be the 15,000. But when we're around 3 to 4 mailers, and they're finally getting back to you, and maybe they didn't even get your latest one. A lot of times they kept the second one that you sent them, and they're actually talking about that offer. This is where a lot of time can get synced into, just searching, trying to pull up what that offer is. You want to be able to close on that quickly. You're going to be able to pull up that, very, very quickly, what you actually offered on that property. So,
All right. So how are you seeing most people right now sell their land deals? What's the best way for me to sell this land? It could be any land, buildable, infill buildable lot, recreational, agriculture. I don't care. How do I sell my land the fastest?
So I personally use real estate agents, similar to what you were just describing. I find that having that boots on the ground just takes a lot of headache off of mine, and I'm happy to pay that commission if they can get it done quickly and get a good price for it. But if you're doing more of the low dollar properties that might be more difficult to sell, boy, it's hard because when I started, Craigslist was a big deal. Then Facebook Marketplace took over, and then that got sort of shut down. I'll do the direct to MLS listings a lot of the times. I think you can usually pay a couple $100 to get it on the MLS, and I've sold a couple properties that way. Let's see, what else do we got? I mean, we put every property on our website, and we try to have a good buyers list going. So we get a lot of bites just through doing our buyers list marketing.
Your neighbor letters is another opportunity to sell, as you mentioned, Brent. And
Why would a neighbor buy the land? Why wouldn't they just go and talk to that
It's funny,
landowner
like
next door to them?
people don't talk. I bought a piece of land that this guy owned for 30 some years, sent him a letter. He said, yeah, I don't want to keep this land. Bought it, sold it to the neighbor who was apparently friends with this guy, but they never talked. And this person was like, I've been waiting 30 years for Fred to sell his land. Like, I'm glad I got it now. It's like, well, okay.
Yeah, it's like, but he never asked Fred if he wanted to sell it. It's so amazing. I see this all the time. I'd venture to say that like 30% of the time the neighbor buys the land. And it might not be the next door neighbor. It could be across the street or 2 blocks over. It's nuts. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
I remember I had a neighbor on a 20 acre and there was timber on there. But to get access into my property, it was 3 people who, like, they chipped in on this gate. So it locked everybody out. And they hated the fact that we bought this 20 acre right between all their parcels. I mean, after a few conversations, they were trying to get everything to stop, someone to go and evaluate the value of that timber in there. In the end, the wife of the neighbor ended up purchasing it. It's like, yeah, I'll take it. Like, I don't want anybody coming in here. And
that's right. Yeah, she wanted to keep that timber there.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, we sold a parcel of land to a homeowner, or to the guy that had a house there. Yeah. And it was 5 acres. And we weren't planning on cutting any trees. Sure. But in his mind, he's like, I don't want one of those trees to get cut. So he bought it, him and his wife, and they paid over market value. Like, it was almost like there's a reason why I call it the Landsharks, because we want to create a shark bidding war whenever we go to sell our land. We want to sell it for the fattest, juiciest, most biggest profit ever. And it's like, I sleep well at night doing it, because at the end of the day, we create such a great marketing avenue. We showcase this land. We make it look sexy. We have before and after shots. They always look the same because we don't do anything to the land. But that buyers love it. They love those beautiful photos and the drones. And if you could put some video in it with some great sound effects, it's awesome. And that's it. Like, and sometimes the neighbors are like, wow, like, I want this land. I want this land to stay exactly the way it is. And we're never going to run out of land, because the neighbors buy the land next door to them and they preserve it. And then they sell it 20 years from now to another guy like us.
Or they are making more land by subdividing that property.
That's right. That's right.
That is another thing, we're seeing a lot, trending. A lot of people start to dibble and dabble into forcing appreciation of the property. And that becomes really fun too, because you're literally making money out of thin air from raw land. You don't have to worry about structure. You don't have to worry about any foundation, none of that stuff. And it's just like, I'm going to go through the process of basically chopping up these parcels and make more. And in the end, you're netting a lot more. So we're seeing a lot of people even just cleaning up the property or putting a path into the property itself and just forcing appreciation on the property. That has been, something I've noticed the last little while, that people are just enjoying and literally having more and more fun about that. I know one of our users who, he's out in Florida as well, but he loves to go to the properties with his cousin, and they'll hang out there for a couple of days. They'll clean things up. They'll make it a trip on his new properties and, put in a path or clean up certain things. And there you go, an extra whatever onto the property. And that's not even, going through any subdividing or anything like that. But there's a lot you can do to sort of force some appreciation on that property, those properties.
Oh, yeah. So true. And if anybody's wondering, like, what does he mean by they're making more land or subdividing? Basically, if I found 10 acres and the city's like, look, we want to increase density there, so we'll allow you to turn that into 10 1-acre parcels, because we want to increase tax revenue, we want impact fees, yada, yada. Now I just took 1 APN, assessor's parcel number, and turned it into 10 APN. So that's one way we're making more land, not literally, but more land parcels and more deals for all of us to do. I have one shark that he will go in and he'll put a culvert in a beautiful driveway, like a wraparound driveway or a circle driveway, so people can pull their campers and RVs through. And then he'll put like a white picket fence. Good gracious, this guy is like spending like next to nothing on this driveway, because he pulls the dirt and he's like getting like some gravel down the street, $400 for a load. And then the white picket fence, that's probably the most expensive part from the timber. But like, I mean, he's selling the stuff for like 30,000 more than what the land's worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about
That's
selling
incredible.
that dream. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Guys, what would you say to someone just getting started? Like, give me like give me 2 steps that someone could take today to find a land deal and get started today, start making additional income, because it's nuts. Like, before I knew it, I was making like $9,000 a month in about 6 months from payments coming in from my land deals. And that was double my Army salary when I was still employed.
There was one thing I heard, and I actually applied this, is if you're getting started with land, a lot of people get hung up on where do I start? I say start where there's action. And I think that's counterintuitive. Like, naturally, a lot of people fear that, right? But where there's action, things are going to move. And if they can't move, you've got other people, other investors you can meet, maybe offload the property to them, whatever it is. Work in an area where there's action, and don't overthink choosing a county. You're still going to go through the ropes of learning. The next step after that is get some darn mailers out there. Get some marketing out there. Choose 1 or 2 channels and get deep with that and understand how that works. So whether it's with mailing, whether it's you're going to cold call them, yourself, or whatever it is, just get some marketing out there. And I think that's more than enough that should get you started to realize and prove the concept of land. I've had a lot of people who get started with us, and that's all they did, and they realized, oh, okay, yeah, this stuff works. And that's exactly what I did as well. I mean, you can imagine I was even more skeptical. I didn't even know what a county was. I tell people when I first started, we don't have counties in Canada. I thought that's where the sheriff sits at, and that's a jail box where people go to. And so, I didn't even know how to offload a piece of property. I just went, got a list. I did not get this specific list from the county. I just bought the list from a service that no longer exists anymore. And then that's not a list. I just moved to office, but I have still my very first mailer. I doodled on it, and it was all the same. All postcards went up. I got 3 deals done, and so it's like, don't overthink it, because I think it's so. And by the way, I didn't even have an LLC. I did everything under my own name. My mother, who used to be an accountant and a bookkeeper, it's like, just do it. Like, don't worry about it. There's so little risk. There is so little risk. So I think those are some of the learning lessons I've had. And I think I'm still hearing these things are still true.
And just know that you will make mistakes. And like, that's important. I think for me,
No, Kevin, that's the reason why I still have my job. I'm not willing to make mistakes. Nope. I'm never leaving my job.
Well, if that's the case, then maybe a job is the right thing for you. But for those of us who do want to, get out of that, or do something, or just provide some supplemental income on the side, it's okay to make those mistakes. And that's actually important. Your goal should be to fall on your face a few times, because if you don't, you're not going to learn anything. I mean, I know I made every mistake in the book. I bought landlocked properties. I, bought things with giant tax bills that I didn't know about. I bought unbuildable lots. I've done all of them. And that's totally okay, because you're going to hit a few singles, you're going to strike out a few times, but eventually you're going to hit that home run, and then it's all going to be worth it. And, it's okay to just get something out there. What somebody I was talking to said, aim, fire, shoot, or shoot, fire, aim, right? I can't remember the order of it, but basically just get something done. Just shoot, then figure out where you're aiming next, and hopefully get a little closer to the target.
In the military, we call it ready, fire, aim. Ready, fire, aim.
That's it.
Because you're readjusting the whole entire, which is very dangerous, actually. But that's amazing. And
I'll add to that. A lot of people, I look at momentum as this leaky gas tank. Like, those of you that are listening right now, you probably are in that mood of wanting to start something. You only have a limited amount of this fuel, just letting you know, before it drains out. The only way to refuel this gas tank is through some sort of result that you're going to get. So imagine this tank is constantly leaking. The only way you're going to refuel that is by getting something done with some sort of result. It doesn't have to be the end result, but it can get you to that next step to refuel your momentum gas tank. Because if you don't take action on your momentum, we've seen this. I mean, we've all seen it. It's just going to fizzle out. So if you have momentum, take advantage of that.
I know we have a special offer for the Rhino Nation today to get access to using Pebble, to starting with Pebble. Give us a skinny.
Yeah, if you actually go to the landsharks.com/CRM, you'll get access to Brent's, Pebble setup. He's got, when you come in, you've got his documents that he recommends, his stages, his templates, his task list. Everything is built out, and Brent is continuing to work on this account as well. So he's going to continue to add stuff to this. So it doesn't matter when you sign up, but if you go through Brent, you'll get access to his documents and his templates. And really, then your next step is to simply just get in there. I don't care if it's within your first 14-day trial, doesn't matter. Just get in there, get your mailing out the door. I mean, I shouldn't be saying this, but you literally could sign up for Pebble today within the 14-day and then just get your mailing and cancel it out. Just get mailing out is all we're saying, right? Get started on that, because nothing can start without that.
I'm glad you said that, Jesse, because I had a guy that reached out. He signed up for the Landsharks a couple years ago. And I always try and reach out to everyone like, hey, how's it going? And we reached out, and it's like, I'm actually sending my first mailer today. You won't believe it. And I was like, wait a minute, your first mailer? And that's on me, because I should have been like kicking down his door, because that's how we get results. That result is getting the letters out. I don't care if it's one letter and you got to handwrite that thing in the middle of the night when you put the kids down. Because like I share this story all the time. Me and my wife would go down in the basement in 2016. This is in Colorado. It'd be freezing down in that basement. And we would write until our hands would almost fall off right after we put the baby to bed. And this is the newborn. And we're like limited on sleep. And it was tough times back then, like handwriting those letters. We don't have to deal with that with Pebble. So anyhow, we're going long, but
yeah, you're getting out your mailing only 2 minutes. I'd be exaggerating if it took you more than that, once you've done it once. But yes, Get your mailing out.
Thelandsharks.com/CRM. And guys, take action today. God bless. We'll see you on the next one, Rhino Nation.
Thanks very much, Brad.
That's all for this episode. Your next step to success is to continue the conversation over at wholesalinginc.com by joining the mailing list, as well as get your chance to book a strategy session to learn the systems and become part of the tribe and work personally with one of our amazing coaches. We'll see you next episode with more ways to make you a fortune in wholesaling.